1 hour down, 1 hour to go to kickoff. And there's a lot of good 12 p.m. kickoffs here, and even local time, Joe, 11 a.m. kickoffs, which we're going to see here. And this is how we get down. Each and every week on Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's Donnie Rightside. It's Joe Lisi. It's the SportsGrid Network. It's college football today. It's just how we do it. Let me ask you this question, though. Kickoff today. It is in Lubbock, right? Mm-hmm. Top 10 game. You have BYU undefeated and slightly ahead of Texas A&M. This game's going to go a long way to determine who's going to actually make it into the Big 12 championship game / who's going to make it into the college football playoff. But that's not the question I want to ask, Joe. When that kickoff happens today, any tortillas flying? Because you can't tell college football fans, especially college kids, that they're not going to have anything.
Well, it's 15 yards now. Because the AD came out about 3 weeks ago. First one, I think, is a 15-yard penalty. Second one, I believe, is a 15-yard penalty and $100,000 or $150,000 fine. Now, the kids don't care because the school's paying it, right? So here's the thing. Do you set the tone early? I think if we could bet on that, I think, yeah.
Now, hear me out on this. Like BYU, the Mormons, right? Like there's no caffeine, there's no cheating code up there. They come down here to Texas Tech. They bring 20 kids all decked out in Texas A&M gear. They throw tortillas on the field the entire game.
Yeah.
Genius?
I guess.
15-yard penalties for Texas Tech all over the place.
So is that
cost the university millions?
So is that what you're suggesting?
I'm suggesting. Look,
they can't have.
Suggesting it.
They don't have caffeine. I thought it was alcohol.
No, they can't have caffeine.
Really?
Look, I don't. I'm over 2 years without caffeine. Am I Mormon now?
You're
I don't drink anymore.
I'll tell you why. You're not normal. I'll tell you that.
That's not.
I love you, but you're not normal.
It's not nice. Now let's get down to the action today, Joe. BYU. 13 and a half's in the market now, Joe. What's the steam? Are we sitting out? What did BYU? Didn't get off the plane?
Well, I'm seeing 12 and a half on some books, 13 and a half on others.
What's the deal?
A lot of Texas Tech money coming in, and again, rightfully so. They have the better defense, led by David Bailey. You talk about that front seven. Coach talked about it. They are very difficult to run on. They've only allowed 74 rushing yards per game, 2.4 yards per carry. They haven't allowed, Donnie, a team to rush for over 130 yards on the season.
Yeah.
So that is the MO with L.J. Martin and BYU. If Bear Bachmeier is going to stay in manageable third downs, BYU is very balanced. 216 on the ground, 216 through the air. If all of a sudden the rushing attack goes to 100, that's a significant drop-off, and then you're going to get blown out potentially because it's not game flow. It's not what you're used to playing, especially on the road.
Help me out with this, too. Let's go over some prop bets in this game and have some fun with this, too, because there's some windy conditions down there in Texas today. Baron Morton for Texas Tech, 252.5 is his passing prop, Joe. Bear Bachmeier, 191.5. If you pick between both of those quarterbacks with those identical numbers we just went over, who are you feeling today, overs or unders?
It's got to be Morton. Again, when Texas Tech struggles, if you've watched them in recent years, the passing attack hasn't been legit, right? They struggle. And Morton has been turnover prone at times. The one game that they lost this year to Arizona State, Hammond was inconsistent until basically the last 5 minutes of that matchup. They were contained. So they have to convert on third down. They have one of the best conversion rates in all of college football, almost 50% on third down opportunities. And they're averaging 294 passing yards per game. You're getting basically 42 yards a discount because of how good BYU's defense is in the secondary and the wind and the weather. So I would say Morton has to blow through the 252.5.
Rushing props today. You take a look at BYU. You have L.J. Martin, Joe. 66.5 yards is what he's listed at. And you actually see right there on the screen 70.5 at some outlets as well. You look at Williams and Dickey for Texas Tech, Joe. Roughly 78.5 and 62.5, depending where you're shopping at right here. If the ground game is going to be effective, it looks like Texas Tech has a couple guys that can really go. Who do you give the nod to if you're looking on the ground with rushing props?
Again, I would go with Dickey and all the Red Raiders rushing attack because, again, they're averaging around 420 total yards per game, 197, actually maybe higher than that, 494, 297 through the air and 197 on the ground. But you look at the front seven of BYU, they're not as dominant in run support as Texas Tech. They're allowing about 130 rushing yards per game. We saw Iowa State move the football, not a dominant rushing attack. So, again, a couple weeks ago, even though Iowa State lost, they still put up 27-plus on that front seven. So I think, Dickey would be the look for me from an offensive perspective. If you're back in Tech, I think it's an over.
Yeah.
Again, BYU, I lean to the under because they want to sustain drives, run the football with L.J. Martin, and get into a lower-scoring game.
Looking at the wide receiver position today, Joe, if we pick off the two top leaders, or I should say the two top guys here in the odds market, Chase Roberts, BYU, 60.5. Caleb Douglas for Texas Tech, Joe, he's listed at 63.5. Some secondary options, BYU, Parker Kingston at 52.5. And then if we look at Texas Tech there, Cody Eakin around that 48.5, Joe. Receivers in the marketplace for you today, who are they?
Well, I went all Texas Tech, and Douglas happens to be my guy, but not just with the yardage.
Yeah.
I did take a shot. I got pretty good prices on him anytime touchdown, plus 135 and plus 145 for Douglas. He's a home run hitter.
Yeah.
But Eakin, too, the tight end, in red zone opportunities, he matches up well on linebackers and nickelbacks. 48.5 is doable because I think Morton will break out, but also anytime touchdown for Eakin in this matchup.
There you go, Joe Lisi's card there. Rip it off for the people. Explain
I
yourself.
like Tech. I like Tech all week. I
Yeah.
like the over, too. I think if you're back in Texas Tech, you have to go with the over 49.5 or 50 because they want to push a little bit of tempo.
Yeah.
And I'm all in on Caleb Douglas. I said, he was a little bit limited his last couple of games out. I think in this particular matchup, with all the chips in the middle of the table, he has a big day.
By the way, if you flip up my card here, Joe, usually sometimes we're at odds, right? We go opposite each other. I got Texas Tech today. I think Texas Tech handles the business, and you see that number. It's spread 10.5, 11.5 that most people are getting 11s. They're gone right now. I'm interested to see because we're about an hour away from kickoff, and that line continues to get steam in the marketplace, Joe. But one of the more fun prop bets that everybody likes, specifically in NFL football and college football, touchdown props, Joe. Pay dirt picks today. Cameron Dickey, Texas Tech, minus 185 he's up to right now. Jacoby Williams, Texas Tech, minus 115. Everybody else, Joe, plus money here. L.J. Martin, Caleb Douglas, Coy Eakin. And who are we looking at today?
Well, I always like this. I told you I like Douglas and Eakin for Texas Tech. In these big games, just like we say, primetime matchups for the NFL, Bear Bachmeier plus 165 is live. You look at the quarterbacks. I don't think Morton will run as much, but plus 320, it's still worth a lottery ticket. You want to put it in specific type of bets or parlays. Don't risk a lot, and then gamble at your own risk. But I think those are pretty good value for Morton and Bachmeier in a big game like this. Where must win, these quarterbacks might look to take it over.
By the way, we do look at BYU, right, unbeaten. And correct me if I'm wrong, right? We do have a Big 12 championship game. But if they win today on the road in top 10 Texas Tech, you have TCU at Cincinnati and UCF to end the season. Let's just say they run the table in the regular season. They're a college football playoff team.
Yeah, they're going to be up there. Here's the thing. There are a number of different one or undefeated teams right now that are going to – that's why we talk about the Notre Dame bet. Yeah. It's not a shoo-in because you have all these teams. What is the perception going to be if it's BYU, Notre Dame, BYU, Oklahoma? That's why these games are so significant because they're must-win now to potentially change that perception and give you, I want to say, almost like confidence in the second to next 3 weeks of the regular season because you don't know how the committee's going to view these teams.
Talk to me about this, too, because Morton did not start in the only game that Texas Tech lost this year, 26-22 to Arizona State. Are they going to get the benefit of the doubt and sort of, if they have 2 losses and one of them came with Morton at quarterback, are they going to get an extra bounce?
No.
If they even? No? It's out?
No, just because they were significant favorites in that game, even with Will Hammond. They laid as much as 9.5, 10 in the start of the week. Now, they bet it down to 6.5 before game time. But, again, no. Will Hammond's an experienced quarterback. Yeah,
it should be fun to watch it play out as we're seeing some of the highlights here on the field. Now, big sold-out crowd there, understand. And I just want to see, Joe, when we end this show, they're going to kick off. Will there be at least one tortilla on the field?
Yes.
Is that a penalty for one? Or is there you need 30 or 40 of them?
No, I think
they do hundreds of them on the field before.
Donnie, the AD came out and said 15-yard penalty. We'll see, or maybe warning. We'll see how they play it out.
But if they're actually making, soft-shell tacos in the stands and eating them, and then, hey, I had a food fight up there.
You know
what I mean?
Here. I'm
soft-shell tacos, Joe? Hard taco or soft-shell for you?
No taco, just the meat.
Come on, get this guy. Get this guy out of here. Get this guy out of here. I can't take it anymore. We'll be back up.
Sauce Gardner heading over to the Indianapolis Colts as they go all in on this season and beyond. As I think a lot of people have been noting, that move does not just say, hey, we like what we have this year. It says we like what we have moving forward, and that includes Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback for Dallas. What does that decision to bring in Quinnen Williams say? That means they're poorly ran, but we already knew that.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in a football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, you know, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Football today rolls on. We're roughly 45 minutes from kickoff and a top 10 tilt that we just talked about here in the state of Texas, Texas Tech and BYU. We got to keep things moving along here, having some fun. I'm Donnie Rightside. He is Joe Lisi. And back to the SEC we go, Joe. Texas A&M and Missouri. To get the people caught up on the live numbers, the opening number this week, 5.5 points here. That's gone. 6.5 and 7s across the board right now, Joe. And a total that's still set at 48.5, which is actually down from around 52.5 at the opening number. Texas A&M, much like BYU, unbeaten and in the top 10, but maybe not getting their full due just yet, Joe. You win in Missouri, you give them their full due yet?
No, I'm taking Missouri plus the 6.5. They're 18-2.
Hype them up for you.
They're 18-2 at home, Donnie, over the last 3 seasons with Eli Drinkwitz, and they're 5-1 this year and have won by an average margin of 30.6 points per game. They have a defense that could go toe-to-toe with Marcel Reed. They have played solid third-down defense, 27% entering this matchup. Very difficult to throw the football on, giving up only a $155 in the back end and holding opposing offenses under 100 yards per game on the ground. So as long as they bring their lunch pail, and they've done that, especially at home, I think they're going to be in this number. Now, Texas A&M has better athletes, has the better quarterback, but that doesn't necessarily mean they win this matchup. Coming out of a bye week, I'm more concerned about A&M than I am Missouri, so I'm taking the points.
This is what I like about this game, too, because you were on the same side last time out, and I think we're on the opposite sides in this game now, Joe, and in this game. You like a little Missouri action. I like the favorite here in Texas A&M to roll over the boys. Now, talk to me about this. Maybe a little bit different if Pabula was the quarterback, but what are we missing from Missouri? And also, is it just business as usual for that offense where they're not really going to miss Pabula?
Well, they're going to have to run the football. And again, Ahmad Hardy, that did break out against Vanderbilt. He had 97 yards on the ground. That was a better effort. He was contained in previous matchups against Alabama and Auburn to 53 and 57 yards in both of those games. He's going to have to get basically 100 yards. He's 92.5 entering this matchup. Missouri's averaging 213 entering this game per game on the ground. They're balanced, throwing for 237. Their new quarterback, Matt Zoller's 69% completion percentage, only 213 yards, 2 tutties, no interceptions. As long as he plays clean at home and it's a limited type of game plan, I think they could be in this number. I think they force a lower scoring game just the way A&M played Auburn, and they look to steal it.
I love to take a look at quarterbacks that are in that Heisman race, Joe. Marcel Reed here comes into this game. His prop for passing, 225.5. And if you look at his passing prop number, Joe, Marcel Reed over 1.5, minus 106. I like both. I got to tell you, I know you like Missouri. I know you like that defense. Those numbers stick out to me. Over 1.5 touchdown passes, minus 106 for him to throw 2. I think it makes sense. His passing yards, 225.5. Zollers and Reed. Who are you matching up here in this spot?
Well, I mean, Reed is the more consistent quarterback. 61% completion percentage, over 1,900 yards, 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's a dual threat. He's got big playmakers on the outside like Concepcion that does it all. He's got 7 receiving touchdowns on the year. They are a wide-open type of attack. They're running the football for 200 yards per game, throwing in the area of about 259 entering this matchup. So, Donnie, I would go, if Marcel Reed and A&M are going to cover this game, he's got to get through his passing total today.
Take a look at the rushing props, Joe. Marcel Reed, 33.5 listed there as a quarterback. Hardy from Missouri, 92.5. You know he's going to try to put in that work today. Ruben Owens, the second, 58.5. And then Jamal Roberts here from Missouri at 38.5. Rushing prop, does it just go through Ahmad Hardy for you today?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's Hardy or bust. Again, they had a little bit more of an RPO game with Bo Perbula, and that, he was a better runner than Zollers. But Zollers can still move the pocket, and I think that's the biggest thing. You rely on tempo. You rely on Ahmad Hardy over Owens. Again, physicality, A&M has the better offensive line, but Missouri looks to do it with tempo, and that's the thing. You got to sustain third downs. Missouri converting 50% of third down opportunities. As long as you win on third down, you move the sticks, you take another 3 or 4 minutes off the clock, and that can lead to an under and potentially covering the 6.5, 7-point number.
Receiving props, show, particularly on the show, we talked a lot about Casey Concepcion in the past. 55.5 is his receiving prop today. Mario Craver, 63.5. Those are the 2 top dogs here for Texas A&M. For Missouri, you have Kevin Coleman Jr., Marquise Johnson, as well as Joshua Manning, and a lot of guys that slipped down there. The passing game seems to me it favors Texas A&M today, but do you see anything on the board that really says, you know what, I got to go with it?
Well, again, Coleman is the big play for Missouri.
Yeah.
Without Norfleet, their tight end that was utilized in big matchups. That's a cause of concern, right? When you don't have the tight end in red zone opportunities, your game plan's a little bit limited. But again, if Missouri's going to win on third down, you still have to get the football to Coleman. Again, I like Concepcion on Texas A&M side. Like him for an anytime touchdown as well. So I go Coleman and Concepcion, top wide receivers for both teams.
Got a little pay dirt pick, Joe. Who gets into the end zone for 6 today? Ahmad Hardy listed at a minus 135 price. Ruben Owens the second here, Texas A&M. Texas A&M, yes, minus 110. Then everybody else I've listed here, Joe, at plus money numbers. Marcel Reed now a plus 100. You take a look at Casey's Concepcion, plus 125. Mario Craver, plus 125. Anybody that we're looking at to score touchdowns today between Mizzou and A&M?
Well, I mean, Marcel Reed is the outlier. We talk about big games, quarterback stepping up. I obviously like Reed over Matt Zollers. But I still think potentially the way these defenses play, and you look at just like how opportunistic they've been in big matchups, maybe both defenses to score. I think that's potentially always critical in these type of games. You get a scoop and score, you get a pick six. I like both defenses to potentially hit pay dirt.
Look, still a lot to play for in the SEC, and the reason why we're always focused on Texas A&M unbeaten. You take a look at Alabama, which we're going to go over next against LSU. But understand this: like Missouri, Joe, if there's some way they can beat the number 3 team in the country today, unbeaten Texas A&M, you have Mississippi State at home. Then you go on the road and take on OU, which is a good thing for them if they can win that. And then Arkansas, they probably won't make the SEC championship game, Joe. But they'll make the college football playoff if they finish with 2 losses in the SEC.
Again, we go to the argument, which 2 teams are they fighting with? If they're in contention with an ACC team, Missouri's going to get the inside nod. If they're in contention with a team like Oklahoma in their own division, then they're not in their own conference, then they're not potentially going to get that. Where is the quality win for Missouri? They lost to Vanderbilt. They lost to Alabama. They beat Auburn, and they beat some others. But the body of work from top to bottom, unless they get this victory today, changes everything.
And by the way, the body of work also on Texas A&M. Yes, it's a nice win at Notre Dame, get that 1-point victory. But the rest of the schedule, Joe, like Auburn's not that great. Mississippi State, Florida, not great. Arkansas, not great. LSU completely fell apart. This is one of those games where you might be stepping into a spot where Missouri is ready to play. Whoa, what happened to A&M? They're 8-0. That schedule hasn't been all that daunting, and it won't be that daunting if they pick up that victory today against Missouri. And they're getting the breaks, Joe. You're not facing the true starting quarterback here, and we'll see if that certainly plays out at this point. A lot more college football to go right here on College Football Today on the SportsGrid Network. You know where we're going next? Yeah, it's the SEC. It's LSU, and it's Alabama. Prop bets next.
Sauce Gardner heading over to the Indianapolis Colts as they go all in on this season and beyond. As I think a lot of people have been noting, that move does not just say, hey, we like what we have this year. It says we like what we have moving forward, and that includes Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback for Dallas. What does that decision to bring in Quinnen Williams say? That means they're poorly ran, but we already knew that.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in a football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
All on, Donnie Rightside and Joe Lisi getting ready for kickoff, which is now roughly a half hour away. And that's a top 10 battle that we're going to take a look at today, which includes BYU and Texas Tech. But, Joe, let's get back to the SEC today. Big game, well, maybe for one team. That's the Alabama Crimson Tide looking to win the SEC and also get into that playoff picture and win another national championship. And maybe it doesn't have to come from Nick Saban here. Comes from Kalen DeBoer. Their favorite today, 10.5 points across the board against LSU. What happened here to LSU? Well, it's been a season of turmoil for them. A new head coach today who's an interim looking to go on the road and pull off a massive upset, Joe. Can they do it? I know you say they can't do it, right?
No, I'm not buying in. And now,
oh, wow.
Again,
we got a first.
Yeah, it's a first. I mean, because, again, I don't believe in their mindset heading into this matchup. They do have an interim head coach in Frank Wilson, and we talk about how dominant Alabama has been at home dating back to 2020. You could even go back even further than that. They rarely lose in Bryant-Denny Stadium. 36-1 straight up entering this matchup. This year they're 4-0 and have won by 32.5 points per game. They pounded teams like UL Monroe by 73. I mean, they beat Wisconsin by 24. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And if LSU is going to win this game, they're going to have to potentially score at least 24. And on top of that, that defense needs to contain Ty Simpson. This should be a better effort by LSU because even though Ty Simpson's mobile, he's not Trinidad Chambliss, he's not Diego Pavia, and he's certainly not Marcel Reed in terms of athleticism. So that's what gives LSU problems. They should be able to keep Ty Simpson in the pocket, which would then benefit their secondary that hasn't been bad, especially in man-to-man coverage. But if Alabama can run the football, they're going to get blown out. I still lean to Alabama spread-wise, 9.5, 10, because I don't know what the mindset is of LSU coming out of the bye.
Total. I like the over here, Joe. I like when a coach gets changed because I think more things open up here, and also you're not maybe as predictable as you were because the other team doesn't know what's coming here. What do you think about getting in the 50s?
I want to get I think if Alabama wins, they're going to beat them, and Alabama's going to put up 30 to 40 on them. And again, what Nussmeier will get the start. What happens with Van Buren? If you're LSU, I don't want to see them run the football. That has been a lot of the fan base. We got to run the football more. No, you don't. You have to have a quarterback that can throw for over 300 yards because Garrett Nussmeier to date has 8 games, and he hasn't had one 300-yard performance. Last year, he had 8 over 300 yards and one 400-yard performance. You have wide receivers that just run routes and don't get the football. Come on.
Dude, we love history, Joe. You remember a guy named Shad Williams?
Shad Williams, yeah. He transferred in from Texas Tech 2001 and played for Brody Kroll with Mike Shula there. He had a breakout performance against Hawaii in that was
Everybody
the year.
should break out against Hawaii.
That was the
Timmy
year.
Chang?
That was the year that Alabama, I believe, was on probation.
I think they were.
For what was that? The Mike Price situation?
You know, I remember Shad Williams. They were on Borat for a episode, the Alabama football team. Go, 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 Alabama.
2001.
Yeah.
They went to Hawaii. I think Timmy Chang, or maybe
I think it was Chang.
I think it was Chang.
Yeah.
There was a great game, but they wore road whites and they were on probation that year. It was towards the end of the regular season, I believe. Anyway, Shad Williams had a breakout performance, but he was a dual threat back. I liked him.
How about Ty Simpson and Garrett Nussmeier in this matchup, Joe? One guy, 276.5. That's Ty Simpson as his passing prop. Garrett Nussmeier, 214.5. If you had to bet either one of these guys, Joe, to go over that price point, who is it?
Simpson, again, just because he's been more consistent, hoping that Garrett Nussmeier lives up to expectations in this type of game. I can't put money. I've lost money on LSU all year thinking that, this is the game they're going to step up. And maybe they do, but I can't back a quarterback in this type of situation on the LSU
How about
side.
running back props? Mace used to yell, Harlem World. How about Harlem Berry today, Joe? 44.5. That's your guy right there. Come on.
Harlem Berry's more explosive, I think, especially he's shown an ability to get out in space, and they can utilize him. I think if we're looking runners here, keep an eye out for Van Buren. He doesn't have a listed total, but if the game does start, he's a mobile quarterback, and Caden Durham is always explosive.
Now, I know you can't resist this name. Every time I bring it up here. Aaron Anderson, 43.5. Did you take him over again, Joe? Why every week? Why every week do you love this guy?
He was the team's leading receiver.
Come on.
He was utilized in the offense before he got hurt against Ole Miss, and they never went back to him. Now, he did have 59 yards against Texas A&M, but in red zone opportunities, the kid can catch.
Look at the 38.5. He's steaming right
Donnie,
now.
plus 250 to score. Yeah. Go in with me or anytime touchdown.
I think we have to.
I mean, the kid's
come on.
legit.
How about Jam Miller, though, anytime touchdown? Come on, Jam, minus 200.
He's got 300 rushing yards on the year.
It's got a great name, though, to get in the end zone. Jam it in there.
Wow, what is it, minus 195?
Rammer Jammer. What's that from, Joe?
Jam Miller's averaging 3.8 yards per rush and 300 yards.
How about your boy Jeremy? Jeremy Bernard?
I always like Bernard in big matchups. He did it against South Carolina.
Back tonight?
What?
We got Lotsier Brooks back tonight? Is he back in? Is he healthy enough?
I got to double check, but we'll see. I mean, Bernard for me would be over Williams.
Caden Durham here. Harlem Berry plus 195. Aaron Anderson plus 260. My goodness, people, the best of the rest. It's coming up next. Make sure you stick around. We'll be right back.
Sauce Gardner heading over to the Indianapolis Colts as they go all in on this season and beyond. As I think a lot of people have been noting, that move does not just say, hey, we like what we have this year. It says we like what we have moving forward, and that includes Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback for Dallas. What does that decision to bring in Quinnen Williams say? That means they're poorly ran, but we already knew that.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid college football today. Joe, Lisi, Donnie, Rightside, and away we go because the college football playoff, Joe, it is fast approaching here. Now, it used to be we're winding down the season, Joe. November 8th, what do you got, 1 or 2 games left in the season, the Army-Navy game, and then CN Bowl season and the national championship picture a month later. That's not the case now. Each and every week you have eliminators like you have today. Huge game we're going to talk about here, and we have been talking about BYU and Texas Tech coming up in about a half hour's time. That'll help decide it, Joe, but I want your top 12. I want you telling the people where you're going with your top 12. Who is getting left out? Who are the scapegoats here? There's us dressed up. See, here's the best part about it, too. Like me, I don't need the bow tie. Like, you got to dress up and look the part. Me, I'm confident enough without the bow tie, pal.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the uniforms. BYU all blue today.
Beautiful. It's a good look.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Look like Kentucky out there.
Yeah,
what about the helmet? What is that helmet? A cougar on it? How about that?
That's nice.
Look at that.
Chase
Cougars
Roberts
out there, huh? All right,
oh,
Colts,
man. You see, I'm big on the uniforms.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, if I would have saw
Look
that.
good, play good.
Yeah.
Look good, play good.
Exactly. So if I could put Notre Dame out of the top 12.
Yeah, see, you can't. They're just a hater. Let me guess. You put them out and you put LSU. LSU after a big win today on the charge and the rise.
That's not right, Donnie.
Yeah.
I mean, look at those teams that I have in there. I have Memphis in there. I mean, they're, but they're after last night.
You got Memphis in? Come on now. Stop it.
Yeah, Memphis. Look at that. No, bring it.
Hold on now. You just said you had Memphis in there.
Kidding.
Now look at it. Put Joe's top 20 up right now. This guy's no idea what's going on.
Top 12.
Top 12. That's what I'm saying. But you say you put Memphis in there. Where's Memphis on there?
That was the old one. They put up an old graphic. I have Tech and no, right now, here's what I have. I have I have Ohio State. I have A&M 2 over Indiana.
Yeah.
I have Alabama and Georgia over Indiana because I believe that if they played tomorrow, all 3 of those teams would spank Kurt Signetti and the Hoosiers. It's no disrespect.
That's a lot of now you say no disrespect. That's a lot of disrespect.
Why is that disrespect?
Team's unbeaten right now. Why are they spanking anybody?
Well, they should be grateful they're in the top 5.
Come on.
No? Ole Miss would spank them.
Nah. Run him up. Signetti would run him up a flagpole. Signetti would have him in Florida faster than
come on, stop. So we'll see how they perform today. Hopefully, if you're back in Indiana, they get the cover. I'm on the other side. But Ohio State's the team to beat, and the SEC is legit. And I do have at 11 and 12 both Texas and Oklahoma there. I think both of those teams are trending in the right direction. I happen to think, even though Oklahoma lost, I'm willing to bank that was more a material coming back from injury than anything else. I think if they played now, it would be a different animal, and we'll see exactly what transpires. I think Oklahoma, to me, Donnie, and you look at it, I think they match up very well against Alabama. I love what they did against Tennessee. Defensively, I know they had one bad game against Ole Miss, but I think in a playoff environment, they're 10-2. They're making the playoff hands down.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the fits out there. You have Indiana listed there at the number 5. Pop me up there. Where's my top 12 here so we can get after it and get this business underway? It's your boy DRS right there. Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Oregon, Notre Dame at number 8, Joe. Moving up the charts. Big win today against Navy, and away we go. Texas right behind. They're playing better football right now, Joe. It's a good thing.
Come on.
Now, if I had my way, which, again, this is my top 12, but I have to play by the rules. Brigham Young, Texas Tech, out. Nobody in the Big 12, Joe. Nobody.
Yeah, Donnie,
we go.
come on.
I'm telling you. Listen to me.
Come on.
Listen to me.
This defense is legit. If they get exposed today by BYU.
Yeah, they're going to get exposed.
Come on. They're giving up 2 points for us. So you don't want to. No ACC unless it's Miami.
Nope, I don't even want Miami. Nope, I'm unbiased. I don't want Miami. Get them out of here.
Yeah,
I want no SEC. I want no Pac-12, Joe. You hear me? Pac-12. I want none of them. Big 12 either. I want 2 teams out of the Big 10, the rest of the SEC. Ratings, bonanza.
Well, the Pac-12 is dissolved.
That's what I'm saying. We don't want anybody. No, hold on. You got Washington State out there still balling. You got who? Oregon State? Come on, man. Put them in.
Yeah, you see the new head coach of Oregon State? Sounds like Eddie Young.
Where did he come from? High school? I mean, who's even want to coach that program at that point here?
Well, BYU and Texas Tech, one of them are going to be out. So who would you put in as the 12th spot then? After today?
No group of 5s. We don't have any group of 5s.
Okay, so that's fine. But yours are up there right now. Are you going to put in a Vanderbilt?
SEC. Nods all the way. By the way, if I have a 4-loss SEC team, they get over a 1-loss Big 12 team. How about that?
So
like
Vanderbilt would be on the cusp for you?
Love Vanderbilt. Let's go. Come on,
If they
Bobby,
get the win over Auburn today?
Get the win over Auburn today. Roll around at that point right now. But what do you disagree with? Notre Dame at 8? Too high for you?
No, it would be, honestly, it would be Texas. Because, again, as good as
Texas is interesting, man. It is.
You can't beat Oklahoma, right? And then you can't barely beat Miss State and Kentucky and take them to overtime. They had no right to, and I was on Texas to win against and cover against Miss State. They were down 17 points with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
This is a terrible Kentucky offense. They got pushed to overtime. I mean, you can't have that if you're Sarkisian. You can't tell me you want to have, stability in your contract and then go be pushed by Mark Stoops and Jeff Lebby in back-to-back weeks for teams and a team that hands out Lamborghinis and 200,000 bags of cash to seniors in high school. Come play for us. I mean, come on.
By the way, the games we're going over to, the bigger ones, Joe, basically double digits, it feels like, in that spot. Do we have an upset in the card today? Because when we talk about our top 12s, like, upsets do happen in college football. Like, Notre Dame Navy, it's 27.5.
No,
Alabama's 10.5. Is that a chance for an upset?
How
about Louisville Cal today, Joe? Can you knock Louisville out of here?
Let me just say this. The Louisville game, Louisville's dominant at home. Cal has typically struggled on the road. But they're putting up points, and I still like the way Cal's playing. And if you go to that Cal game last week, Virginia was undefeated in the conference. They were down 24-21. They throw a pick 6 to allow Virginia to get the cover on the last play of the game. I know going to Louisville's difficult, but catching 19.5, I think they could be live today. I don't know if they win, but I think, put it this way, I think they're well within the number. I might be wrong, but I think with about 5 minutes left, they could have the football to potentially pull it out. I'm not sold that this is a beatdown by Louisville against Justin Wilcox.
Who's the best team in the SEC or ACC? Who gets there? Like, who should right now, before we play the ACC championship game, the rest of the schedule, who's the best team in the ACC right now that should deserve a spot in the college football playoff?
I would put my money on Georgia Tech. No Virginia?
No love for Virginia?
Georgia Tech beat up on Duke.
Yeah.
Duke has the best odds to potentially win the conference at plus 350. Virginia, I like. I just don't love them, and I think they could be exposed in the following 4 weeks of the regular season. I think in a big spot, Georgia Tech, when they run the football with Haynes King, Jamal Haynes, and Holsey, they can definitely put up numbers. Again, I know they lost a couple weeks ago to NC State, but I would still put my money on Brent Key in a big spot.
By the way, we did our Rat Pack games. We didn't include the Citadel and Ole Miss.
Oh, come on.
51
I would lay the points.
Ask me this. Would you rather take the 51.5 or would you rather take whatever the first half is?
No, I would want the team total for Ole Miss today.
What would the 51.5 first half? What is that, 28.5?
Yeah. No, but what would the team total be? I think the team total for Ole Miss is the way to go. Again, they
like putting them in the 50s.
Yeah, just because they struggle with their one non-conference game with Washington State.
But really, do you run it up with Citadel late? Like, wouldn't you just take the first half, though? To be honest,
no, I would take team total for.
Who's Ole Miss got next week? Who's the look ahead? Any look ahead?
Well, the Egg Bowl's on the horizon.
That's nothing.
But they also
Florida
have Kentucky.
next week. They got Florida next week.
Florida. That's the game. They lost to them last year.
51.5.
In Gainesville. That was the game that knocked them out of the college football playoff. Jackson Dart had 2 interceptions.
By the way, like, again, I always find this fascinating. Like, the 51.5 is the better way to play because their athletes are better than their first, second, third, fourth, and fifth strings for Citadel. So you can still run it up late in the fourth quarter. But I just feel like Ole Miss should be able to just flex them, like 21-0 at the end of the first, and away you go at that point.
Why?
Would you take the total to the over?
Nah.
Because that means Mississippi would have to score 64 points themselves. Put it this way. Does Citadel score today?
No.
So we got to take under then. Unless it's 73-0.
He's put up 70 in recent years. I like the team total. I'm not betting the total. I like the team total. I like Ole Miss to lay the 50.5. And I like Ole Miss's team total today. I think they get over 50.
Interesting. 20 minutes away from kickoff here at some of these big games. Joe, how about the 11 a.m. start out there
Love
in
it.
Texas Tech?
It's great.
Nice and early in the morning. You get out of there, get your whole afternoon to spend with your family and friends after the victory?
When I was working at ABC Sports, the best game I remember, early kick, took place in 2003. Chuck Amato, Phil Rivers, and T.A. McClendon against Cliff Kingsbury and Texas Tech, Aaron Hunt, and the real Ricky Williams, the original. Game went to 3 overtimes. NC
How about
State stole it.
Look, you get all the history right here on College Football Today. It's what we do, people. Let's continue to have some fun next right here on the SportsGrid Network.
Sauce Gardner heading over to the Indianapolis Colts as they go all in on this season and beyond. As I think a lot of people have been noting, that move does not just say, hey, we like what we have this year. It says we like what we have moving forward, and that includes Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback for Dallas. What does that decision to bring in Quinnen Williams say? That means they're poorly ran, but we already knew that.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think if you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in, Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in the football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, you know, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
15 minutes from kickoff today. Some of the biggest games on the board. We've hit them multiple times today already, going over those prop bets and those bets that you certainly do love, but also some of those games, Joe, the best and the rest, to sort of recap on where we're going today. You know me, people. Love myself some Notre Dame football, 7:30 p.m., Joe, tonight. That is live from South Bend, Indiana, to take on Navy. This spread here opened up at 25.5, now sits at 27.5 at most places, and a total that is listed at 55.5. This isn't a normal Navy team back in the day, Joe, coming in like 2-5 on the season. 7-1, legitimate team, legitimate competition. Odds makers say, not legitimate, Joe.
No, if you're Notre Dame, you pound this team just the way you did last year. Jeremiah Love, that had a huge performance last week against Boston College. You look to just manhandle them in the interior. That's exactly what they did last year. Again, I think this game could go over, but if you're back in Navy, you better hope that it's an under, because that's the only way they could play with Notre Dame. Now, we have seen them a couple of years ago where they did put up 30-plus points. That was the outlier. I think Notre Dame's defense is much stronger this year. entering this matchup. Again, if you're taking the 27.5, you back Navy with the under. I do like Notre Dame, though, to cover this line based off of last week's performance.
I was just going to ask you that because, Notre Dame is in position to make the college football playoff. But you don't want to leave any doubt, Joe. If they win out, I think they get in. But you know what? If there's a team that's in the realm with them, they'll look back and say, well, these teams you were supposed to beat handily, you didn't, and maybe you didn't look as good. Sometimes you have to run a team up the flagpole to get this back. Like it's the BCS era. Hey, look, you might have won 35-7. Make it 55-7.
Yeah, again, you're talking about Bill O'Brien and BC 1-7 last week, and they were basically catching 28.5, and I think they were trailing at one point in the first half. That can't be if you're Notre Dame. You can't walk into a game and take a team lightly. You already have 2 losses to start the year. You're trying to win out to potentially knock down the college football playoff door. Your defense is playing much better. C.J. Carr is playing much better, but you still have a triple option attack where if you're not disciplined, even though you're at home, you could be exposed. So, again, I think, Notre Dame takes care of business based off of how flat they were last week. Playing at home, I think they pound them.
Let's get to Indiana and Penn State, Joe. A rare occurrence here is an Indiana victory at Penn State. You know what's even more rare? Penn State getting 13 to 14.5, depending where you're shopping at here, from the other team, Joe. Like, Indiana is on such a pace this year where it feels like Cignetti has that mojo going. He has a quarterback that can win the Heisman. He wants to run up scores, and when you never really have a chance to run it up against Penn State and you have a chance to, Joe, I think the pedal is to the metal today. But I know a lot of sharps take a look at this game because open up at 11.5, Joe, went to 14.5. Some outlets now back to 13.5 here on game day. This is a 12 o'clock start, but I'm still, the last 2 weeks, I just bet Indiana blind because I'm saying they're rolling now and they want to roll you. I'll lay the points again.
Yeah, I understand your look. You're talking about a quarterback in Fernando Mendoza and a team that's averaging well over 40 points per game, and when they smell blood, they go after it. They beat down Maryland in the second half of that matchup, put up 56 points, and that was just an overmatched team, a very young team in Maryland. I take a different approach in this, and I did book Penn State plus the 14.5. Saw 15.5 early in the week on Sunday night, so you could have gotten a much better number. But that being said, we talk about just history. Indiana only has 2 wins all time against Penn State. Granted, those one came against Michael Penix when he was the quarterback in the COVID year. Both wins have come in Bloomington, and as long as Katron Allen and Nick Singleton are there, I think Penn State looks to run the football, shorten the game. I still think they're going to be within margin, Donnie. They might not win it, but I'm taking the 14.5. I think it's a 4-quarter game. This is going to be easier said than done, in my opinion.
Yeah, game time decision on Surratt at wide receiver, so make sure you check into that as well. Oregon and Iowa, Joe, and so many times on game day morning, which we have, we're only a few minutes away from the first round of kickoffs, as we like to say. Oregon and Iowa, we talked earlier in the show, Joe, 6.5-point favorite. That's gone. It's 5.5 now across the board as a favorite towards Oregon, and a total now, Joe, dropping to 41.5 at some outlets. Rain is in the forecast. Iowa wants to slow this game down, but for 41.5 for an Oregon game, Joe.
Yeah, again, is this going to look like the Wisconsin game where they won 21-7 in Eugene? It might. Iowa's going to have to play that type of game, and I understand they're running the football. They're throwing it much better than they did last year with Gronowski and that offense, but still, I still think Oregon with Dante Moore, tempo-wise, has the ability to expose that defense over the top and wear them down. That's what they do to teams that are just one-dimensional. And again, Oregon still plays solid third-down defense. 3 and out. You're giving Oregon's offense a short field. I think they could expose Iowa. We know how dominant Iowa has been. An over 800 winning percentage with Kirk Ferentz in the month of November, basically over his tenure. I get that. But to me, I think Oregon and Dan Lanning are coming in focused. I think they win this game by double digits.
Joe, I liked Florida last week against Georgia. Thought they can hang around. Gunnar Stockton rolled out of the pocket, could have waltzed in that end zone and covered a spread for a lot of people out there. He takes a knee, Joe, but they're in Starkville today. Georgia versus Mississippi State. This line opened up 10.5 at most outlets. Now 9s and 9.5s here, Joe. On the road in the SEC, always tough. 56.5 as a total. The Georgia Bulldogs for you today, Joe.
Yeah, I like them a lot. Again, here's the thing. When you look at Miss State, congrats. They get their first conference win last week against Arkansas. They got the monkey off their back. They're fighting for potentially a bowl berth. They're at home. Went toe-to-toe with Texas and Tennessee. Lost both of those games, but covered. And Georgia now back-to-back, potentially, even though last week was neutral, back-to-back road games with a look ahead of Texas. I still like Georgia. Football matchup-wise, Miss State allowed 230 yards on the ground to Arkansas and Mike Washington. That's what Georgia's going to do. They're going to pound the rock between the tackles with Bowens and Nate Frazier. I just think it's a bad matchup for Miss State. I think Georgia rolls by double digits and covers easy.
Vandy trying to pick up the pieces of a loss last week. They were getting hammered, but depending on where you got that closing line, you might have won your bet if you had Vanderbilt, which was an incredible finish here. Vandy is laying 6 points across the board, Joe, 46.5 as a total today, Auburn and Vandy.
Yeah, DJ Durkin predicates physicality. Auburn only giving up 3 yards per rush. And you look at Vanderbilt, when they win games, Donnie, every time they pound it for over 200, they're 5-0 and have won by 28.6 points per game. Every time they're under basically 200, they're in a game. They didn't run for over 200 against Texas. They lost, struggled against Alabama. I'm picking Auburn outright, but I like them plus the 6.5 points.
How about that? Auburn outright at this point right now. By the way, keep in mind, this line opened up around 8.5. You had that steam come in, and now it's down to 6 on game day. Not a lot of people looking forward to betting on Vanderbilt. Maybe all the magic has gone out of the season here on Diego Pavia, and the Commodores here. Now, we got a job to do next. It's close to kickoff. We got to get you ready. Let's recap some of the biggest games on the card and send you off to the rest of your Sports Grid day. We'll be right back on the set.
Sauce Gardner heading over to the Indianapolis Colts as they go all in on this season and beyond. As I think a lot of people have been noting, that move does not just say, hey, we like what we have this year. It says we like what we have moving forward, and that includes Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback for Dallas. What does that decision to bring in Quinnen Williams say? That means they're poorly ran, but we already knew that.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in. Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in a football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
Kickoff, people. The excitement is going to build now as you watch, and we'll watch 2 top 10 teams play football in just a matter of moments. That's BYU, and that's Texas Tech, Joe. Let's get that latest live look in here at some of the numbers. The opening line early in the week, 9.5-point favorite. Heavy for Texas Tech. Do you know where we sit just a few minutes before the game? 13.5 as a favorite towards Texas Tech today, taking on BYU. The total in this game, anywhere between 49.5 to 50.5, depending on your shopping. Joe, has your mind changed at all, or is this Texas Tech by 2 touchdowns today
it's
for you?
Texas Tech in the over for me. I'm still backing the Red Raiders in this matchup. Playing at home, I think that's the difference. I like their quarterback over. I like Baron Morton over Bachmeier in this spot. I just think that Texas Tech can run the football. They can throw it, even though BYU has stepped up in critical spots against Iowa State and some of the others. This is the best defense potentially in the front 7 that they have seen up until this point. I don't know if L.J. Martin's going to be able to run the football. I think Texas Tech in a route today.
By the way, Lubbock, is a good nightlife in Lubbock, Joe? You ever been out and about in Lubbock at night?
No, but I should be. That and the Sun Bowl. I want to be the commissioner of the Sun Bowl. I love Texas El Paso.
Who would you bring in every year? UTSA? Like, who would you be your draw down there?
What, team-wise?
Yeah.
It's got to be, I would like an ACC team. And give me a lower-ranked SEC team.
Now, how about this, though? How about like Hawaii used to be in the Sheridan Hawaii Bowl? Was always Hawaii's the home team. Would UTEP always be, the Miners always be a home team there?
No.
No? Why not?
No.
You get the home crowd, man. UTEP,
no.
Texas El Paso.
I would take a lower-ranked SEC team with an ACC or a Big 12 team. Give me something like that.
Built into the mountains the way it should be here. Texas A&M and Missouri today, Joe. Here, you take a look at Missouri now getting 6.5 to 7 across the board in the total. Listed at 48.5. A&M unbeaten, looking to stay unbeaten against a backup quarterback in Mizzou. But Joe says, watch out for that defense and running game here from Mizzou today.
I like Ahmad Hardy. I think potentially Missouri can make this a game and strike the upset. It's not going to be a shoo-in. They are a dominant home team, 18-2 overall. They're 5-1 this year. Their only loss came to Alabama, but from the spread perspective, they have covered. Ahmad Hardy, I think, is live. I think also the passing attack could be live at certain points. If you're back in Missouri, I think you lean to the under. But again, it's such a tough spot, Donnie, coming out of a bye week.
Yeah.
When you're having a heater like A&M has, I don't know if I want to break up that momentum, so I think they could be on upset alert.
Could Elko be a little bit like Big Chest Mario, where you have everything in front of you and you stumble down the stretch when it's all there, Joe?
I mean, it's possible. He's done a fantastic job, though, and again, step
Mario
up.
has.
No, he
Yes.
hasn't.
Yeah.
Come on,
Good call.
Elko. Okay.
There you go. Choked up. Yeah, that's Mario right there, pal. Speak through your chest, Joe. Come on now. Fight through. We only have a couple minutes left. Can you make it?
I got a back trip. You're talking about Elko and Mario. Yes, Elko's done a great job. Again, if they lose, they're still an at-large team, but you got to take care of business today.
I'll tell you, like when I was growing up as a kid, Joe, like I was always a big fan of Miami, but I just thought like the coolest place maybe in the world to go to school would be Alabama. Like, did you have a school when you were growing up like I would love to just go there and cheer on football or be in a big atmosphere? It was always Alabama for me.
No, all the SEC schools, Tennessee, LSU.
I never wanted to go to Tennessee, though. You want to go to Tennessee?
Yeah, growing up.
I like the colors, though. The numbers too
Andy
big on
Kelly, when I was in college,
jersey.
Tony Thompson.
Like
I'm older than you.
You're playing in a football jersey where like the number starts at the top of your head and goes to your
Carl
feet.
Pickens.
I mean, come on now.
Come on.
Nah.
Dale Carter.
Reggie White?
What?
Reggie White?
Reggie White.
What do you mean, one of the best players of all time got an offer.
Yeah, but I like the skill guys. Tony Thompson, Andy Kelly.
Don't sound like
Carl
a lot of skill
Pickens,
in those names.
Dale
I'll tell you that
Carter.
right now.
Give me those guys.
Now, how about these guys here? Alabama today, Joe. Double-digit favorites over LSU. This hurts you so bad. I know it does.
It does.
They might get smoked today, but do they have a chance to bounce back? Interim head coach brings back all the players, firing up the fan base. Only go to see Oklahoma and Jam Miller absolutely stomp them today, Joe.
From the spread perspective, I'm taking Alabama. Again, I don't know what to expect out of LSU. It sounds good. Can they do it? Absolutely. But again, are they half checked out because there's no reason to just play this game? Does rivalry still matter in college football? I don't know. Prove me wrong, LSU. I'd love to see them step up and hand Alabama their second loss at home in the last 5-6 seasons. But that's going to be easier said than done. Defensively, I think their secondary matches up with Ty Simpson. I just don't know what to expect out of Garrett Nussmeier in the offense. If Ty Simpson does get into a rhythm, could be a long day. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm picking Alabama.
Spreads, Joe, these three games we just talked about. A&M, Missouri, BYU, Texas Tech, LSU, Alabama. Who has the best chance to pull off the outright upset of these three teams?
I think it's Missouri.
Okay.
I keep saying that. Home dominance matters. Defense matters. Missouri's defense is as tough as anybody that A&M has faced. This is not a walkover. 27% third down defense, basically 155 passing yards allowed. They're opportunistic. Going to be very hard for Marcel Reed to move the football today.
Here's the question, people. A couple minutes away from tortillas on the field or not, Joe?
Yes.
Give me your idea. A tortilla hits the field today on
Multiple.
kickoff. Wow, penalties all over the place?
No, I think it's a warning and then a penalty.
Yeah,
we'll see.
find out in just a matter of moments here. Thanks for spending your morning with us. Setting up the rest of your Sports Grid day. For Joe, Lisi, and Donnie Rightside, we'll see you next week.
Sauce Gardner heading over to the Indianapolis Colts as they go all in on this season and beyond. As I think a lot of people have been noting, that move does not just say, hey, we like what we have this year. It says we like what we have moving forward, and that includes Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback for Dallas. What does that decision to bring in Quinnen Williams say? That means they're poorly ran, but we already knew that.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They didn't panic. They played like a championship team. They came back and destroyed them, probably cost Brian Kelly his job at least a week earlier than it might have happened before. But the fact is they are playing great. But like I say, I like the talent level of all those teams. And I think you want to have a little bang for your buck and play around with a team that could slide in. Ole Miss might be that team.
The Bowden Blitz. Only on SportsGrid.
Governor calls you out in a football state. You're out.
And it was so funny, too, because after he fired Kelly on Sunday, right, Woodward released a statement that said that, you know, in effect, that he was still in charge of the athletic department. Well, you didn't check with the governor because apparently he had other plans for the athletic department, and you're not in them.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all three Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on Sports.